with 843 TV, and I'm sitting here with Jay and Thomas and with the Kinghorn Insurance Agency here in Beaufort. And another big hot topic we're going to talk about, hurricanes. What do you think?
We are in hurricane
Tis the season. And there's a few things that I want to talk to you about. Number one is that obviously whenever we have a hurricane go by, we always sigh relief, but when they come up our way, it's important. And there's a lot of details. So let's start with, you know, everybody is now getting hurricane policies. Even 10 years ago, everybody said, hey, Hilton hasn't had a hurricane in 100 years. We don't need one. So bring us up to speed to 2022.
Well, I'll tell you, and that's exactly right. Companies started a number of years ago implementing percentage deductibles. And what that's allowed companies to do is be able to continue to provide policies in the area, but at the same time manage their exposure by co-sharing that with the policyholder. What I mean by that is that deductible that applies to damage caused by wind is typically a percentage of your insured value, of your home value.
Mm-hmm. Not a percentage of the loss.
Not a percentage of the loss, that is correct. So if you, your everyday fire or water loss may be $1,000, $2,500 deductible. Your loss by a tornado or a hurricane may be a percentage or thousands or tens of thousands of dollars depending on the limit of insurance that's on your policy. So it can be a very impactful deductible that policyholders just need to be reminded of. Most of us have it on our policies. I mean, I certainly do on mine. I know Thomas does on his. We do on our business here. And we're glad to have the companies to be able to provide the coverage, but at the same time too, if a big storm does hit, we just need to be able to be prepared to pay that deductible when it comes around.
All right, let's talk about the details because elevation means a lot in the plots, doesn't it? So
yes.
Thomas, give us some insight about that.
Yeah, so there was a map revision, I believe
March last year.
Last year, correct. So what we largely saw were that flood zones in our immediate area in Beaufort County largely became less hazardous, according to the maps. But that hasn't changed the landscape. Really what it's done is maybe created a false sense of safety with some folks, not realizing that just because maps say that your home is no longer in a more hazardous flood zone and is less hazardous, it's still an issue. You know, about a third of all flood losses nationally, statistically, occur in less hazardous flood zones. So we would encourage folks to still carry that coverage or at least assess their individual risk and talk about it with your agent.
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about the mortgage, the bankers. They sometimes, you've had flood zone and then they'd say, oh, you don't have to pay for flooding insurance anymore. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that. And for what, the $250 a year?
It varies.
It varies.
But still though, I mean, it becomes relatively inexpensive when you're in one of those non-special flood hazard zones. And just because your bank says that they're not requiring that you carry it anymore, doesn't mean you shouldn't carry it.
Well, and during one of the last tropical events we had, my garage almost flooded, and I'm in a non-hazardous flood zone where my lender doesn't require flood insurance, but had that water gotten into my garage, that would have been a flood loss. I would have had to have flood insurance to cover that. So again, that's something that just because it's not surging tidal water, it could be, you know, as a result of a large rain event. It's worth noting.
Right. And the other thing we want to make sure people understand, when they come here, it's a serious matter. You know, you just hate to have that one time. And what Jay was also sharing with us is that the building costs are even more. So if your house is, say it's a $500,000 house and something happens to it, add 2 or 3 to it to maybe see what the insurance coverage should be. Tell us a little bit about that.
Exactly. Well, I think we've all experienced and we've all heard that building costs are going up. You hear building costs are going up. We can't get materials, can't get workers. Well, that's all driving that cost up. And you need to make sure that you evaluate your insurance policies from time to time to make sure that policy is keeping up with your needs as well. So again, if you have, again, just say a $500,000 house today, and you've insured it and you've carried that limit on for a number of years, the cost to rebuild that tomorrow may be a lot more. just with those increase in building costs. There may be an extra $100,000 or extra $200,000. So I just encourage you to take a look at that limit and make sure that it's still adequate to replace the home should there be a loss.
Is there a percentage you can say, hey, think about adding 10% or something? Is there a sort of a lay of the land type of conversation?
I think some carriers will have evaluation tools that can really be used as a starting point to discuss with the client, because everyone's home is unique. Talking with local contractors, we're certainly not contractors, but again, to Jay's point, costs have certainly increased on that front. So just being mindful of where you are and having that conversation.
There are tools that are out there. We have those here. We're happy to plug in some different parameters and at least get a value to give the homeowner some guidance. And that's what it really it's all about, is come in, talk to us, and we're happy to provide some guidance for you.
And that means a lot. When you've been, like I said before, you're in the community for multiple decades, maybe 125 years comes to mind, which we're going to talk about next. But that's important as you're new coming to our community. Good information to have. So gentlemen, we were going to take a break right now, and we'll be right back with more 843TV.